Two special guests join us this evening. Saumitra Chaudhuri, member of the Planning Commission, and of course Swaminathan Aiyar, consulting editor, ET Now. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the show this evening. Swami, I want to start this off with you. What's your sense? Did you expect the growth to come in this poorly? Did you expect a number of 5% for FY13?
Up to a point, yes. But acceleration just in one quarter should not change everything. Now, in some sense, the government should have been taking into account what it expected in Q4 after all these measures before it gave the forecast of 5%. So as far as I can see, the potential uptick in Q4 should already be built into the government's 5% forecast. Actually, if you look at it, if in the first half of the year they did 5.4%, and then you're saying total is 5 for the whole year, in effect the government is saying in the second half of the current fiscal year, growth is only going to be 4.7, right? That is truly a dismal forecast at a time when some of the other indicators actually show an uptick.
Right, Mr. Chaudhuri, this estimate is based on extrapolation of numbers till November 2012. You had the finance minister make a mention of that as well. Is it credible, you think? After all, much has changed ever since, hasn't it?
No, credible is credible in a sense. It's credible in the sense that they themselves are saying, look, this is based on extrapolated data from April to November. It's a different one, slightly different question to ask, is an accurate portrayal of what might happen in 12-13. And I think 12-13 growth would be somewhat better than what they have projected. It's purely the fact that I'm looking at the 5 months after November. If I were to factor that in now, and that is an assessment, there are no hard numbers out there. If there's an assessment, if I factor that in, I think I would get a number better than 5%. And that's why I'm saying that it's a question of accuracy. But then they work in a different way. They're bringing out a revised numbers at the end of May, which would factor in the full data for the full year, and that might be entirely a different number.
Okay, the data for the full year may be a different number. Saumitra Chaudhuri, that's the call from him. Swami, what's your sense? You also seem to be a little more optimistic than these numbers suggest. What are you basing your optimism on?
I'm basing it on the fact that the latest HSBC purchasers index, there's a PMI index, right? The Purchase Managers Index. That is the latest on what is happening on the services scene. That shows a very substantial pickup in services in December compared to the earlier months. So I ask myself whether the government is getting misled by some gloomier trends earlier and is missing the latest trends in this particular forecast. That's my main reason. Not only that, according to this particular government forecast, consumption growth is only going to be 4.1%. Just 4.1% for the whole year. In previous years, it's been 8% plus. Now, is there an evidence of this collapse? Just take a look at the balance sheets, the reports that you are now getting from the FMCG companies. You look at Nestle, Hindustan Lever, are they showing some huge collapse in consumption? I don't see it. Yes, there is a fall in some white goods, or perhaps your cars and motorcycles are not doing quite so well. But do you get something like a halving of consumption growth when you look at the data of the companies? I don't get that picture. That's why I'm saying, it seems to me both from the corporate results that we are getting, plus the services PMI, it seems to me the situation is better. And that's why on this rare occasion, I'm looking an optimist.
Okay, on a rare occasion you're looking and optimistic. But Saumitra Chaudhuri, while the mood may be upbeat than what it was 4 months ago in the back of reforms, what's your sense? Have things really changed on the ground? Where are those large infrastructure projects? What's new that you're hearing on the investment cycle? What is going to kick it up again?
As I said, it will be essentially projects which are stuck. And if I am a company, I've invested the equivalent of 5,000 crores in a project, I've spent 30% of the money or 50% of the money, I borrowed from a bank, I'm paying interest, and the project has got held up for some reason or the other, fuel is not there, something else is not there. With what confidence would I look at a new project? First, I'd like to settle issues with this one. And if those issues do get settled, if for example, fuel supply agreements, with pending fuel supply agreements are signed, coal output improves, or I get the clearances that are being held up, whatever the reason in my case it might be, then only will I look at another 5,000 crore project. So I think getting the existing projects which have got stuck up in one way or another way on the fast track is going to help us actually bring new projects onto line. And that's why I said I'm giving 6 months to 8 months for that to happen. So we need to get some traction here, and then that would lead to newer projects.
Swami, is it now fair to expect the RBI to ease its monetary policy further? Because after all, we're looking at a scenario where growth could actually be at a 10-year low, and the balance would then shift in favor of reviving growth and not so much reining in inflation. Would you agree?
No, I'm not one of those who believes that a 25 basis points rate cut suddenly results in a huge boom in consumption or production. I mean, the tools at the RBI's disposal, frankly, are quite weak. It cannot, by a magic wand, make the growth go up or go down very much. But yes, I would not be surprised if we do have a 100 basis points cut during the calendar year. But this will depend on what happens to inflation trends in the months ahead. Right now, we saw that core inflation seems to be coming down towards the comfort zone of the Reserve Bank. If that continues to be the case, yes, I would expect to see a 100 basis points cut. But if that turns out to be a flash in the pan, if that begins to worsen again, then I think all bets are off.
Mr. Chaudhuri, on a realistic note, where do you see GDP growth end for this fiscal?
As I said, it will be somewhere in the region of, let's say, starting at 5.5% or maybe 5.8%, somewhere in the region of that.
So, Swami, then what's your sense? How do you see growth pan out for FY14? That's the next big trigger that everyone's going to watch out for. Are we going to be looking at 6% growth, or could it be somewhere around the 7% category? Is it possible at all?
I think we should be able to cross 6. I certainly would not be that optimistic that I think we hit 7. For that, many other things would have to change in the decision-making process and the confidence process. The way I see it, the problem is not just government paralysis. Yes, some of that fear and paralysis I think may ease. But as against that, we are getting more and more judicial activism, NGOs in the various ministries, NGOs agitating on the ground level. So this is a separate set of issues, which is not going to go away quickly. So I am not sure to what extent we will really get a fast acceleration. I would hope for more than 6. I would not hope for 7.